Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is The Middle of It, a podcast about the messy but beautiful in between parts of life. Today's episode is about goal setting, not resolutions, not new year, new me, not punishing yourself for what didn't happen last year. Real goal setting. Because every year around this time, we're told to pick a word, make a resolution, overhaul our lives overnight. And then we're quietly reminded a few weeks later that most people fail anyway. And I don't think that narrative serves us. Instead, I want to talk about setting goals the way a business would. Because whether you realize it or not, you are the business. I actually think winter, not January 1st specifically, but winter as a season is the best time to do this. The holidays have a way of showing us what really matters, what fills us up, what drains us, what we miss, what we avoid, what we numb, what we overdo. There's so much information there if we're willing to look at it honestly. Winter is naturally slower, quieter, more reflective, and it gives us permission to pause and ask, what worked last year? What didn't? What do I want to carry forward? And what am I done dragging with me? This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about directing yourself. If you've ever worked in a corporate environment or even helped plan a school event, a fundraiser, or a household budget, you know this. You don't just set goals once and hope for the best. You plan, you assess, you reassess, you adapt. And yet, in our personal lives, we say, these are my goals for the year, and then never look at them again until December, if at all. That's not realistic, and it's not fair to you. If the business were you, your energy, your relationships, your health, your growth, how would you run it differently this year? One of the biggest shifts I want to invite you into is positive goal framing, because so many of us are used to setting goals rooted in shame. I need to lose weight. I need to stop spending so much. I can't be in this much debt. Those goals immediately activate guilt, pressure, and fear. And fear is not a sustainable motivator. I'll give you an example from my professional working world. I work in human resources, and one of the things companies look at is how many people leave versus how many people stay. That can be measured in two different ways: turnover, how many people leave, and attrition, how many people stay. Same data, completely different energy. Turnover focuses on loss, attrition focuses on retention. And more organizations choose to focus on attrition because when you focus on who's staying, you build on what's working. The same applies to our lives. Instead of I need to lose weight, try I'm living a healthier life. Instead of I can't be in this much debt, try I'm becoming more financially mindful. When we focus on the positive, we bring more positive into our lives. I also want to talk about something that every single one of us has, but we don't always name: the negative voices in our head. That running commentary that tells you, you can't do this. You've tried before. You always give up. Who do you think you are? And here's the thing: if you tell yourself you can't do something, you probably won't. Not because it's actually impossible, but because your brain believes what it hears most often. Those thoughts become the story, and the story becomes the behavior. If the story is, I never follow through, then why would you? If the story is, I'm bad with money, then of course you avoid looking at it. If the story is, I'm just reactive, then you stop trying to pause. This isn't about pretending those thoughts don't exist. It's about noticing them and choosing not to let them run the show. Here's what reframing actually looks like: not I can't do this, but this feels uncomfortable and I'm learning. Not I always fail, but I'm practicing something new. Not, I'll never get there, but I'm taking small steps forward. This isn't lying to yourself. This is giving yourself a fair chance. You wouldn't speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself when you're trying something new. So, why is it okay to do it internally? I want you to know I get this. I never really believed in myself for a long time. I would get all these ideas, feel inspired, even start things, but I didn't have confidence and I didn't have a plan. And if I'm being honest, underneath all of that was the belief that I probably couldn't do it anyway. So I stopped myself before I ever really even tried. Getting sober changed that. Sobriety taught me that I can do hard things, that I can show up consistently, that I can follow through even when it's uncomfortable. And because of that, here I am. I launched this podcast this year, and I am genuinely so grateful and so blessed to be connecting with all of you. So when I tell you to believe in yourself, I'm not saying it lightly. I didn't always believe in myself either, but I believe in you. And sometimes that's enough to get started. Your goals don't just live on paper, they live in your inner dialogue. You can have the best plan in the world, but if the voice in your head keeps saying, this won't work, it's too late, you're not consistent, you will unconsciously sabotage the process. That's why positive framing matters. That's why claiming your goals matters. That's why tiny actions matter. Because every small action is evidence that the negative voice is not telling the whole truth. Here's something you can try this week. When you notice a negative thought, pause. Ask yourself, would I say this to someone I love? If the answer is no, reframe it out loud if you can. You don't need to swing to toxic positivity. You just need neutral and honest. I'm allowed to try a new hobby. I'm allowed to learn about finances. I'm allowed to run slowly. That's how momentum builds. That's how confidence grows. And that's how goals start to stick. So, this is where mindfulness and manifestation come in. But I want to be very clear about something. I believe in claiming what you want, in owning it. I believe in saying, this is mine. But manifestation without action is just a wish. I'm going to say that again in case you didn't hear it. Manifestation without action is just a wish. And if you have a plan but still no action, that's just a dream with a to-do list. Manifestation is not pretending. It's not bypassing reality. It's not sitting back and waiting. Manifestation is identity alignment. It's saying, this is who I'm becoming. And then asking, what would someone who believes this is true do today? This is where people usually get overwhelmed. So let's slow it down. Big goals fail because they require big changes all at once. Small actions work because they build trust with yourself, reduce resistance, and create momentum. If fitness is your goal, maybe it's going to the gym once or twice a week, not every day. If financial health is your goal, skip one coffee a week and move that money into savings. It might only be $20 to $30 a month, but it's a start. If spending is a challenge, put items in your Amazon cart and don't buy them right away. Leave them there until Monday, after you've been paid and after weekend spending. Then ask yourself, do I actually need this? These small pauses create big change. In early sobriety, goals don't need to be impressive. They need to be supportive. Your goal might be getting to a meeting or home group, holding a commitment, staying connected to your network. That's a full goal. And emotional sobriety matters just as much. You might say, I'm becoming the example of emotional sobriety in my home. That can be a year-long goal. I'll give you a simple example from just this morning. There was a gift left outside near my car, and Alex told me it was there as he was heading out. I sat on the couch and thought, is he really not going to bring that in? And my mind immediately went to, he's not being thoughtful. He doesn't care. That's the spiral. That's where emotional sobriety gets tested. So I had a choice: sit in resentment or communicate. I texted him and said, hey, can you bring that in for me? And he did immediately. That was it. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Don't let expectations become a script you never give the other person. If you care about someone, set them up for success, not failure. That tiny action protected my peace. In business, we look at both quantitative and qualitative data, and we should do the same in our lives. Quantitative: how many arguments did I get into this month? How often did I pause instead of reacting? Qualitative: how do the people closest to me experience me? I've heard it said many times, if you want to know how I'm really doing, ask my spouse. That's not about judgment, that's about awareness. So some of you might be thinking, okay, but I already built a good life. Now what? You're sober, you're stable, you're happy, and suddenly it's quiet. That quiet can feel uncomfortable because you're no longer in survival mode. You're in choice. This is where goals shift from repair to expansion. And expansion requires honesty. What do I actually want now? What scares me about wanting it? What has held me back before? Those answers become your action steps. Here's something else important. Changing a goal is not quitting, it's responding. Businesses pivot, needs evolve, people grow. If a goal no longer matters to you, let it go. If you hit it early, let it expand. That's success, not failure. I'll share some of my goals for 2026. One of my big goals is running the New York City Marathon. That happens in, we'll call it Q4. That means training, fundraising, and consistency all year long. Another goal is for this podcast: reaching more people, building real community, creating aligned partnerships that genuinely support listeners like you. Another goal is to do speaking, especially at colleges, because freedom without guidance can be dangerous. And I wish someone had told me some of these things when I was at that age. These goals matter deeply to me. And I want to share something else I've recently learned and I'm going to start to put into practice myself. This isn't something I've mastered or something I've been doing for years. It's literally something I'm actively experimenting with. It's the idea of claiming your goals before they happen. And it's called the 369 method. All the millennials hear the song. The idea is simple. You write or say your goals daily with repetition so they stay top of mind. Morning, before you pick up your phone, you read or write them 3 times. Sometime during the day after a movement, working out, a walk, stretch, you repeat them 6 times. And then at night before sleep, you say or write them again 9 times. 3, 6, 9. And if that feels too much for you, even just saying your goals once a day counts. Making them part of your prayer or your meditation, even a quiet moment, it counts. This is about staying connected to what you're building. Claim it, visualize it. Be the person who already believes it's possible. Here's the secret. Ask yourself, what would someone who believes this is true do today? Then do one tiny action, 5 to 15 minutes, not dramatic, not exhausting, just consistent. Not someday, not next month, not when life is calmer, today. And the answer should be small, almost laughably small, 5 to 15 minutes. Something you can do even when you're tired. Here's a couple of examples. If your goal is fitness, put your sneakers on and walk for 10 minutes. Stretch before bed. Schedule one workout for the week. If your goal is financial health, move $5 into savings. Skip one impulse purchase. Look at your bank account without judging yourself. If your goal is emotional sobriety, pause before responding to a text. Take one deep breath before reacting. Communicate a need instead of assuming it will be noticed. If your goal is career or creative growth, write one paragraph, send one email, research one opportunity. Tiny actions matter because they build self-trust. They tell your brain, I do what I say I'm going to do. And that belief is the foundation of every big change. One action per day, no matter how many goals. So let's talk about what the first 30 days actually look like, because this is where most people either gain momentum or give up. Step 1, name your goals. Before anything else, I would encourage you to have one goal, and if you're comfortable with goal setting, maybe 2. 3 would be the absolute max. Write them down. And don't just put them in a notebook you'll never open again. Carry them with you. Put the paper in your phone case, make them your phone background, put them in your notes app. These goals should be visible. If something matters, we keep it close. So week 1 is consistency. It's not about results. It's about showing up. Your only job this week is to take one tiny action per day toward one goal. That's it. No pressure to do it perfectly. No pressure to do more. Consistency builds trust, and trust builds momentum. Week 2 is follow through. It's about strengthening the habit. You're still doing one tiny action, but now you're paying attention. What time of day works best for me? What feels natural? What feels forced? This week is about follow through, not expansion. You're proving to yourself that this isn't a 1-week burst of motivation. If week 1 and 2 feel manageable, week 3 is where you gently expand. Maybe 2 tiny actions on some days, slightly more intention, slightly more time. Not because you should, but because it feels possible. This is where confidence starts to grow. Week 4 is all about reflection and ownership. Ask yourself, what feels solid now? What no longer feels like a stretch? What surprised me? This is also where you reassess. If a goal needs to shift, shift it. If something no longer matters, release it. That's not failure, that's alignment. Throughout the year, we're going to check in at 30 days, quarterly, anytime it feels like life has knocked you off course. These check-ins aren't about judgment. They're about recentering, asking, is this still important? Is this still aligned? What needs adjusting? So if you're listening to this and thinking, I want help staying connected to this, look out for those check-ins. We're going to do this together. Let's make 2026 a year of intention, a sober year, a growth year. I'll be checking in too because I need the accountability, of course. If this episode resonated with you, I want you to share it. Send it to your friend with big dreams, the one with big goals, the one who's quietly wanting more but isn't sure where to start. We are stronger together. And when we say things out loud, when we let other people witness our goals, it creates partnership, accountability, and momentum. So here's your invitation. Claim your goal today. Put it in the comments. Write it down. Say it out loud. This is how we stop carrying it alone. You're not broken, and you definitely aren't behind. You're in the middle, and the middle is where intention turns into reality. Until next time, keep going.